I'm going to play it a few times through. It just takes me a minute to find the right spot.
And then the next morning, they were all so eager. Like, what could he have done in one night? And he pulled out one sheet of paper, and it said, I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery. I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery. I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery. And it said, I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery. I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery. I was a mystery, I am a mystery, and I will always be a mystery.
That's a very accurate biography.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of you who came in a little bit later, our embodiment meditation today was song. And that is such a simple chant to be able to sing in the shower, in the car, in wherever, to really get the vagus nerve singing. It helps the vagus nerve get toned and resilient and be reminded of our everything is okayness in the moment. And it is a large cranial nerve that's connected to rest and digest in the parasympathetic nervous system. And if we're going to sing, we might as well combine it with our practices for a good death. That's a really, really great one. Yeah. Just taking a pause and seeing everyone settle and get here. Anna can share the link to that beautiful snippet, 1-minute video from a DT, and it's on Facebook, so you'll have to see it there. It's the only place that I know of that it is. Anyone want to share? Anyone who's not shared the name and a few sentences about a beloved dead? Anybody would like to bring a beloved ancestor here to introduce us to today?
I could.
Please.
I have a bulletin board of my beloved dead instead of an altar. And I sit before it in meditation each day. And this morning, I really felt the presence of my dad, Clarence, who was born in 1918 and died in 2008. And wow. We grew up on a dairy farm, moved to the San Francisco Bay Area with him when I was 17, and I was 61 on the day he died. And I had cared for him for the last 7 years after my mom died in our home. And I was so happy to feel his presence coming in, because I was thinking as I sat in meditation, I'm drawing these people in for the veil to be the thinnest, and he said, I'm already here. I'm already here. So I am thankful for my dad.
Clarence. His name was Clarence. Yeah.
Clarence. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary Marty. Love your I love your heart, my dear. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Give me a minute to rejigger my share here. To come here. Oops. And okay. Oh. All right. Our quote for this week is Hafiz or Hafez. Hafez says, because of our wisdom, we will travel far for love. Because of our wisdom, we will travel far for love. All movement is a sign of thirst. Most speaking really says, I am hungry to know you. I am hungry to know you. Every desire of your body is holy. Every desire of your body is holy. Dear one, why wait until you are dying to discover that divine truth? Why wait until you are dying to discover that divine truth? Oh, thanks for the ecstatics. Where would we be without the ecstatics? So last week, we did sort of a deep dive transmission on embodied living and dying, falling in love with existence, Tantra, and the wave, riding the wave. What if we could trust ourselves to die? What if we knew how to die? The idea of what is the biggest obstacle to trusting our body, and what is the superpower we need to become more embodied. We had some recommendations on what to contemplate, what's in the way is the way, or the cure for the pain is the pain. The inevitability of death as our portal to the greatest personal mastery, being with fear and riding the ups and downs of the wave of life. What if death could be our beloved lover, a cherished presence in our lives? So before we move on to the roadmap, which is paperwork heavy and intellect heavy, which is important and good, practical focus. Any shares, any integrations, any musings, feedback, questions from last week? How are folks integrating all of that embodied dying material? Where are you? What's been on your back burner this week in your dreams or in your heart as you think about these questions of embodied dying? Carla.
Good morning,
Good morning.
midday, afternoon. Um, that question of death as the beloved, I really struggled with because I don't want to romanticize it. I don't want to see a desire of death as an escape from learning the lessons that I need to have in this incarnation. But what came to me was something very simple, and it's twofold. The main way I can accept death as a lover is that I have a very strong feeling that once my body is left here and my soul has transcended, I'm going to be able to reunite with God's Spirit in a way that I just can't do on this plane. So it's coming home to God. And then the second thing that gave me some reassurance is that if I'm in great pain in my decline, my bodily death will be a release from that pain. And I've had a couple friends who died very painful deaths, and their loved ones that were with them said that when their spirit left the body, the face had such peace on it that they knew that the pain was gone.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. I really hear the piece of wisdom around, the sort of nuance around I don't I don't want to use death as an escape, and I also don't want to romanticize death. I really appreciate those pieces of wisdom coming through, and yet finding a way to relate to that befriending of the death process in your own interpretation, in your own way. Really love that. Thank you. Anyone else want to share about embodied dying? Dave.
Kind of what's come up for me. I heard it many years ago, and I might have heard it again in this class. Is I'm a human being, not a human doing. And I've had a couple times when I felt more like I'm a human being than a human doing. The first time I went on was called a Vision Quest, which is an indigenous practice where you go out. I was in Utah, and we were 50 miles from civilization, and we sat by ourselves for 3 days and 3 nights. And I just went into a whole different state of being, because you don't have to eat, you don't have to do anything you normally do. You're not where you normally are. So I was very connected to something then, and I was very curious, like what you were talking about last week. And it was just an experience I'll never forget. And I've been a computer programmer all my life, and during that vision quest, I found myself talking to a rock, and that was just weird for the old me, and just something to do for the new me. And lately, since I've been taking this class, I'm not sure, they kind of coincided. I go and sit. There's a retention pond near where I live, and I sit there and I just watch and listen to what's going on. I listen to the birds a lot, and the birds have their own way of communicating what's going on around them. And I listen, and I don't know what they're talking about, especially the crows, but the more I listen, the more I can kind of tell what they're talking about. Like I used to be able to tell when there was a cat coming by what the birds were saying and doing. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. And I listened to the whole recording last week, and You kind of said what Tantra was a couple times, but I still don't think I understand what it is, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Welcome to the club. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really, the pieces of wisdom I'm pulling from your share, Dave, is this non-ordinary reality, this piece that the Vision Quest creates, which is we have ordinary reality and non-ordinary reality. And the non-ordinary reality states, which we can access through those kinds of any kind of ritual, really, shamanic time. We're going to be talking next week about the psychedelic experience, and all of those pieces are like, how do we juxtapose ordinary reality with episodes and bouts of non-ordinary reality in our lives? And especially if we have a sense that we're closer to death, right? That's more important to do that more often, depending on the ability and age and stage and capacity in our lives. So thank you. That was a beautiful piece of wisdom there. Yeah. And to answer, I mean, to further contemplate your question about Tantra is it's a it's an it's an ancient teaching that sort of split off from the yogic tradition back a long time ago, that many different peoples have picked up and call many different things, and there are many different definitions. And my definition changes day to day. I heard someone once call Tantra a book of questions, which I really love. And another definition, or at least the embodied dying perspective and definition, would be learning how to ride the ups and downs of our life experience and embrace it all with as much ecstasy as possible. It's a practice. It's not a destination. So that's my best take in the moment. There's other folks here that study Tantra who maybe you want to share a definition. It's on your heart right now. And I'm guessing for you it changes also, but please chime in if that's alive for you. Or any other shares about embodied dying that feel alive. Lumen.
Hi, good morning. Um, my what's alive for me around embodied dying right now is um kind of this dichotomy of like like so I don't know, something to live into and practice in my own life, and also this like really deep grief for um, other loved ones in my life who are much closer to the stages of decline and dying, who I don't even know if they know how to have conversation, if they know what the word embodied actually means, if they know how like to have conversations about conscious death and and so I have a lot of grief about that. Like I have a lot of grief for my last living ancestor who just turned 88, and I feel like he's just been sitting in front of the television for the last 15 or 18 years waiting to die since my grandma passed. And like, he gets more and more grumpy and bitter every year. And I'm like, When was the last time you like read a book or changed the color of your curtains or like went for a walk or anything, you know? And there's like not a lot of newness in his world, and I'm often like encouraging that. I'm often encouraging like I'd love to send you a book. Like, what do you like to read? Can I recommend a documentary about XYZ, or even like a narrative film that's like I watched this movie last week um, called You Don't Know Jack. It's the story about Jack Kevorkian, who like really pioneered um, death with dignity, the assisted, maybe like not death with dignity, the bit like the organization, but the practice of assisted suicide here in the United States. And I got to watch that, and it was like there's so much there. Um, and so there's like this deep living, breathing, burning, aching desire in me to have conversations like this with real life people who I love, who are in decline, who are like going in that direction. And yet I don't like, I can't find the door.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I really hear and feel and empathize with your question. Just like as we're pioneering all of this, all of these possibilities, all of these sort of emergent, alive ideas about how to hold death differently, it actually may create an even bigger barrier or even more grief with the people in our lives who there's not an easy bridge to that. So I don't have any solutions for you other than to just be with you in that pain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for participating. And I'm gonna begin our day today. Is everyone finding the resource page? All right, I know that was an issue. If you aren't, I want to encourage you to stay after the class ends and we can slow down and help you. And Anna can put it in. It's the queenofdeath.org/resources. And today you're specifically going to need some of that paperwork, 5 wishes and other documents. So yeah. So today, just to remind you about this particular slide about the 3 buckets or the 3 categories of end-of-life paperwork, we're still on the first one. We should be wrapping up the first one today and then moving in week 8 to caring for the vessel. So we're still designing our own sacred decline. And as we've talked about many times, we may not get an opportunity to decline, but this is the sort of best way to come at it, is to use that framework. And yeah, there's a lot of paperwork in this category because it's important and it's also tender. And the people around us often need to step in and help us make those decisions. So today we're going to be looking at wishes 3, 4, and 5. If you feel the need to complete wishes 1 and 2, I want to encourage you to get your checklist out and review wishes 1 and 2. Talk to your buddy about accountability. Your buddy would probably be happy to knock on your door of, hey, how are you doing on wish 1? Or how, have you talked to your family about wish 2? If you ask for that, right? If it's a service we can offer our buddy to be the accountability partner, I think most people are willing to do that. So if you feel like you need that follow through, please ask your buddy for it specifically, like, and measurable specific timelines. Like, I would like to have my, wishes 1 and wishes 2 completed by the middle of next month. Or I want my entire document, my entire bucket 1 documents done by the end of November, or whatever it is. It really helps your buddy to know what you'd like from them. So be specific and ask. We're going to do a few things here, and then I know we usually try to do some short breaks. Who's got their 5 wishes out that are willing to do some reading today? Raise your actual hand, probably, or virtual hand, either way. Okay, I see Becky L. Who else? Sarah, Maria. Okay, that's wonderful. That's a great start. And Alan. Okay, so let's go in that order. We are on page 8 of my booklet, and it is this top italicized part. And would you read the top italicized part, Becky L. Becky Lubold?
The next 3 wishes deal with my personal, spiritual, and emotional wishes. They are important to me. I want to be treated with dignity near the end of my life, so I would like people to do the things written in wishes 3, 4, and 5 when they can be done. I understand that my family, my doctors, and other healthcare providers, my friends, and others may not be able to do these things or are not required by law to do these things. I do not expect the following wishes to place new or added legal duties on my doctors or other healthcare providers. I also do not expect these wishes to excuse my doctor or other healthcare providers from giving me the proper care asked for by law.
Thank you. Sarah, would you read the entirety of wish 3, please?
My wish for how comfortable I want to be. Please cross out anything that you don't agree with. I do not want to be in pain. I want my doctor to give me enough medicine to relieve my pain, even if that means I will be drowsy or sleep more than I would otherwise. If I show signs of depression, nausea, shortness of breath, or hallucinations, I want my caregivers to do whatever they can to help me. I wish to have a cool, moist cloth put on my head if I have a fever. I want my lips and mouth kept moist to stop dryness. I wish to have warm baths often. I wish to be kept fresh and clean at all times. I wish to be massaged with warm oils as often as I can be. I wish to have my favorite music played when possible until my time of death. I wish to have personal care like shaving, nail clipping, hair brushing, and teeth brushing, as long as they do not cause me pain or discomfort. I wish to have religious readings and well-loved poems read aloud when I am near death, and I wish to know about options for hospice care to provide medical, emotional, and spiritual care for me and my loved ones.
Thank you so much. Maria, would you read the entirety of wish 4?
Yes. Wish for my wish for what I want people my wish for how I want people to treat me. Please cross out anything you don't agree with. I wish to have people with me when possible. I want someone to be with me when it seems that death may come at any time. I wish to have my hand held and to be talked to when possible, even if I don't seem to respond to the voice or touch of others. I wish to have others by my side praying for me when possible. I wish to have the members of my faith community told that I am sick and asked to pray for me and visit me. I wish to be cared for with kindness and cheerfulness and not sadness. I wish to have pictures of my loved ones in my room near my bed. If I am not able to control my bowel or bladder functions, I wish for my clothes and bed linens to be kept clean and for them to be changed as soon as they can be if they have been soiled. I want to die in my home if that can be done.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I just want to bring your attention back to the addendum here, and that these are really specific things, right? Like a wet cloth on my forehead may or may not be somebody's thing. A massage, having people around, what you want on your altar near your declining bed, if you want your members of your faith community. These are very specific, and I really appreciate that the Five Wishes has created a template that is good enough to elicit the flavor of the thing, but then encourages crossing out, right? And then in addition to crossing out, I have a very long list of things for my wish three that are unique and specific to me because I am particular about the kinds of things I want to eat, the way that I'm touched, like, and like I say this in class, people cringe, like I don't want commercial radio in anywhere near me or television on, like I would be very not happy about that, right? So the way in which I live my life that seems normal to me, it's really helpful to start documenting that about like what brings you alive, what calms you down, what are the things that are important to you. Um, so you can use, this template, and then of course the template that is my addendum to extrapolate, use as a springboard for basically generating some creativity about what's also true for you. Any questions about wishes 3 and 4? We're gonna do wish 5 as well. And then we're gonna do a little, well, I don't know if we're gonna do a breakout or not, but let's do wish 5 and see where folks are at. So wish 5, Alan, and is there one other person up for reading besides Alan? Let's see. Somebody raise their hand. Lumen. Okay. So Alan, why don't you read, the top heading and then all of the bullet points on the left, and then Lumen can pick up from there and read the bullet points on the right and the questions at the bottom. Alan, you're muted, love. I don't know if you.
Yes, I thought I could use the space bar because I'm looking at the screen. I'm sorry,
Right.
just a moment here. There we are. My wish for what I want my loved ones to know. I wish to have my family and friends know that I love them. I wish to be forgiven for the times I have hurt my family, friends, and others. I wish to have my family, friends, and others know that I forgive them for when they may have hurt me in my life. I wish for my family and friends to know that I do not fear death itself. I think it is not the end, but a new beginning for me. I wish for all of my family members to make peace with each other before my death, if they can. I wish for my family and friends to think about what I was like before I became seriously ill. I want them to remember me in this way after my death.
Thanks, Alan. Go ahead, Lumen.
I wish for my family and friends and caregivers to respect my wishes, even if they don't agree with them. I wish for my family and friends to look at my dying as a time of personal growth for everyone, including me. This will help me live a meaningful life in my final days. I wish for my family and friends to get counseling if they have trouble with my death. I want memories of my life to give them joy, not sorrow. After my death, I would like my body to be buried or cremated. My body or remains should be put in the following location. The following person knows my funeral wishes. If anyone asks how I want to be remembered, please say the following about me. If there is to be a memorial service for me, I wish for this service to include the following. List music, songs, readings, or other specific requests you have. Please use the space below for any other wishes. For example, you may want to donate any or all parts of your body when you die. You may also wish to designate a charity to receive memorial contributions. Please attach a separate sheet of paper if you need more space.
Awesome. You can start to see how Wish 5 is sort of bridging the next bucket of paperwork, right? And again, this is a catch-all document for, I think of it as someone who, has done nothing, and the family member's like, could you just do this one thing? And then it's, sort of like a catch-all. We will be going into some of the issues of Wish 5 more fully when we talk about returning the vessel, as well as we're going to do a write your own eulogy exercise and a couple of other things. But this is a a sort of a quick and easy way to get it all in one place. So someone asked me in the chat to give a few more examples of the things I added under Wish 3, and you have full access to my addendum, so you can sort of work with it, work with your buddy, maybe look at it together. In Wish 3, I talked about foods, I talked about fasting, I talked about nature connection, I talked about the kind of smells, loose bed linens, and no radio TV. I spoke about that already. What I want in my personal space, what kind of music, how I want people to treat me in Wish 4. That's just so personal. It's like a wide range of experiences given so many variables and the context. But I did say, I prefer sweet alone time and then one-on-one time with just close people. I'm probably not going to be let's have a concert, at the end of my life. Some people are. I wish to die in my own home. Poetry is welcome, that kind of stuff. And then what I want my loved ones to know is just some of my belief systems, what guides me around this sort of between the worlds piece. And then, I probably reference, it'd be better for me to reference, there's a bunch of other documents that refer to like my wishes at the end of life. So any questions about any of the wishes 3, 4, and 5? You're going to be sort of on your own to work on these. And so I would really encourage you to make a date with your buddy and say, let's look at this together. Let's talk about these. Let's compare notes. Let's look at Lee's addendum, and, just make it an opportunity for deeper connection. But what are there any questions right now you have about wishes 3, 4, and 5? Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break. If questions come to you during that time, we'll just open back up for questions when you get back, and we'll see where folks are. 5-minute break. Okay. Any other questions about wishes 3, 4, and 5? They're sort of the softer side of the 5 wishes. They're the kind of information that your healthcare providers don't really want, because it's more for your family, for your caregivers, for your close ones, which is why some institutions feel that the five wishes is just too much to take in and they're going to want shorter forms. And we're going to talk about those today. Darlene.
Hi. Um, I was for wish 5. I'm thinking about the part I wish for my family and friends to look at my dying as a time of personal growth for everyone, including me. This will help me live a meaningful life in my final days. And then the mentioning of counseling if they have trouble, and then memories of my life to give them joy, not sorrow. Um, I, I guess I just if would like to hear, if possible, more about those parts, like how, if maybe facilitate is the word, or setting up that environment, or just or what's worked. I don't know. I know it would be take a different form probably in different times, and it can be present in silence. And um, I guess that part I feel personal strong need for that, and as a person who may be supporting others through a decline, or grieving after, if it was a sudden experience, maybe through memorial, having that after, and then also for myself, it just seems that's the healing or that meaningfulness that I would be seeking and hoping for. And it makes me think of my parents.
So Darlene, let me ask you exactly what you're asking. Are you saying that how to do that with others, or how to do that with in your own dying? What can you make me one sentence question?
Sorry. Um, Maybe now I am kind of I'm worried about with my immediate family, like my parents. What Lumen had said um, really spoke to me. That's a big about let's see, about maybe helping to create that experience
Yeah.
when it's
Got
about
it.
others.
How do I help create that reality? That's a great question. I will say that, again, that this international template that is going to, a huge wide spectrum of people, it introduces a concept of death positivity. It introduces the concept, which is very counter to many of our cultural upbringings and philosophies, which is death can be seen at least neutrally, and maybe even use it as an opportunity or even a celebration. So, as you might expect me to say, the longer you have to prepare for that worldview and perspective and attitude, the more likely it is you are to get it. So instead of waiting until one is dying to have that conversation with family, have it as soon as possible. And, using this course as an excuse, using the need to complete paperwork as an excuse is a great way in. And if others have other answers for Darlene, you can put it in the chat, or please, reach out to her or talk to your buddy about it. But I think it's a rich one for conversation.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to do the final pieces of the 5 wishes are on the next page, where you actually sign it. And this is a notarized document, which means you'll need witnesses and a notarization. And you can do that at a bank, or a notary of another kind. Sometimes at city hall or something, they have those services. And so, you'll want to do that. And you probably want to wait until you have all your paperwork done because many of your documents are going to need notarized signatures. So you want to sort of compile it all. And then like Damon, Sean and I brought a notary to the house and, I don't know what we paid her, $100, and she did everything. And there were many pages for her to notarize. So that's another way to do it. Is someone available to read the last page of the 5 Wishes, page 11? Linny, what to do after you complete the 5 wishes is the heading on my page.
Got it. Make sure you sign and witness the form just the way it says in the directions. Then your 5 wishes will be legal and valid. Talk about your wishes with your healthcare agent, family members, and others who care about you. Give them copies of your completed 5 wishes. Keep the original copy you signed in a special place in your home. Do not put it in a safe deposit box. Keep it nearby so that someone can find it when you need it. And fill out the wallet card below. Carry it with you. That way people will know where you keep your 5 wishes. 3 more. Talk to your doctor during your next office visit. Give your doctor a copy of your 5 wishes and make sure it is put in your medical record. Be sure your doctor understands your wishes and is willing to follow them. Ask him or her to tell other doctors who treat you to honor them. If you are admitted to a hospital or nursing home, take a copy of your 5 wishes with you. Ask that it be put in your medical record. I have given the following people copies of my completed 5 wishes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
There's a couple of different residents of different states that have different exemptions and other things. And then you can put the wallet card in your wallet. We keep our documents in one of those plastic snap file folders and put it in our freezer of our kitchen refrigerator. And I think we've talked a little bit about this, that it's become sort of a practice to have documents there. They're super easily accessible. Nobody has to go through digging through a file cabinet or a safe deposit box or something. So we have a copy of all of our documents in our Google Drive, and anybody who's mentioned in them has a copy by email and an access to the Google Drive link. And we also have a paper copy in our freezer. So that's a little redundancy for you. What else? Let's see. I actually want to talk about these forms that we've brought up a good amount. Anna can put the links in the document. You're going to have to go and find the form that's appropriate for your state. I gave an example of this for North Carolina. And you can see it. Actually, I have a copy here. It's very bright. So, the reason it's bright pink, and we've talked about this, Brenda talked about it, back when they used to have paper files, and many hospitals and some institutions still have paper files, it really stands out. You can see the bright yellow of the DNR, which is do not resuscitate, and the bright pink of the most or post document. Some states call it most, some states call it post, but it's medical orders for scope of treatment. And it's basically taking the most important, from their perspective, from the hospital's perspective, the most important part of the 5 wishes, which is wish 1 and wish 2, and putting it on a 1-page piece of paper. Like, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, right? So in the most document, section A has, do you or do you not want CPR? And then section B is, what kind of medical interventions do you want? The full scope the limited interventions or only comfort measures, right? So you start to see those three choices again and again, like we saw in Wish 2. And then section C is about antibiotics. Section D is about fluids and nutrition. Section E is who made this decision. And then on the patient signs it, and on the back, there is a review, like if someone is in sort of chronic or long-term care or has a long-term sort of disease process that they can review and update these documents. Super simple, and it boils down what you've already decided in Wish 1 and Wish 2 to one page. And then same with the do not resuscitate order. You can put your name in here and then it can be signed by a physician. It's unlikely if you are a relatively healthy, non-declining person that your doctor's going to want to give you a do not resuscitate order. So I don't, for example, have one in my paperwork. I don't have one. I don't have it signed because I'm not in that context. I'm not in hospice. I'm not dealing with a long-term issue. And if I were to have some kind of accident, it wouldn't really be helpful anyway, because it wouldn't be with me, and they'd probably resuscitate if I were in a car accident, for example. They'd probably resuscitate anyway. So DNRs are usually for people who are in the process of actively declining and not wanting to be resuscitated. Let me stop there. Carla, go ahead.
Now, if I didn't even think about this, not having a DNR until, everything starts breaking down, basically. But if I were to want to change that, like if I had to be under a medically induced coma or something, if I wanted to change that to adding something as important as a DNR, do I have to have the changed 5 wishes? Do I have to have that all notarized again?
Yeah,
Any changes like that?
this is where we talk a lot about redundancy. Like in Wish 2, if you've said already in that close to death, you don't want any life support treatment, you don't want any intervention. And if you filled out a most or post form and you're like, please don't resuscitate me, then what the DNR is just another redundant shorthand, very bright way to say that. On sometimes people post it on their, if they're in hospice, for example, or if they're declining, or if they're aged and they said, please do not. Someone happens to call the emergency medical teams, they would post it on their fridge, this yellow piece of paper, or on their front door, or over their bed. And it's just, you've already said it in all of these documents, but this is just an extra big way to have a stop sign saying, like, I have a DNR. So if you already said that in your 5 wishes, from my perspective, this isn't necessary unless you're in some kind of active situation. Is that helpful, Carla? Does that answer your question?
No, actually, my question was the converse of that.
Oh.
So I'm thinking about saying I do want resuscitation unless there's brain damage, which would, be from an accident where I wouldn't have oxygen to my brain for so many minutes. In that case, then I would want to enact a do not resuscitate. And does that
Yeah.
need to be notarized?
Yeah, if you change a big thing in Wish 2 about wanting life support treatment and then you decide you don't, I would say you'd need to redo it. I mean, you could certainly cross it out, put your initials and the date and check the new one. But again, it's unlikely that your 5 wishes booklet is going to become your official documentation with any kind of institution. It's more likely that you can just fill out a new one of these, or your loved ones can. Does that make sense? Yeah. The 5 wishes is sort of the guardrails of the whole entire process. And then you get very specific with these documents. And like Brenda was even saying, each hospital may have their own sort of most document, each state. So you might just have to get good at filling these out and being redundant, but because you know yourself, ideally, at every chapter, even if it changes, those forms will be easy to fill out because you've already thought about it. Denise.
Hi, yeah, just looking at the most form, I'm just wondering if it could actually cause problems in addition to solving them, because well, let's say I'm doing this way ahead of time, I mean, hopefully, and like if a person is not elderly and not in any sort of decline, it seems like it would really depend on the situation of whether you want those measures or not. And so how could I in advance know, what the situation is going to be? It almost seems like it would be better just to have my healthcare proxy make those decisions instead of having them be like inflexibly in a form like that when I don't know what's going to happen, or anyway.
Yeah. Agreed. I am in 100% agreement with you. I have not filled out this form for myself. I have a blank copy of it with my paperwork, and I know it's there, but generally speaking, it's not going to be required in my situation. It sounds like in your situation, Denise, unless or until you're going in for a procedure into the hospital or something happens and you're faced with these questions. And I hear what you're saying, which is the more and more and more and more specific I get, the less flexibility my healthcare agent has in the face of variables. So I am in agreement with you. That's my approach as well. But it's just important that people know that these documents do exist and they can use them if they would like. Linda.
I agree with you and with Denise that these documents are not needed until we're really aged or on hospice or something like that. But I do have one, and I have signed it recently with my healthcare provider. I'm in my 80s, and if I were given CPR on my chest, probably my ribs would break, and then I would have an even harder time recovering. So, for my age, it is appropriate, I think. And I did do it with my doctor. Actually, we were sort of talking, and I sort of asked her, and she sort of asked me if I wanted to do it. And she went and got the paper. And there's many. This is actually the federal version. And I know I did a state version also for my son who died recently, but this one is for myself and my husband. We did this. It's actually two-sided polls because my husband and I are aged, and our chest would not be able to take the CPR. So we filled it out with the aid of our doctor.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Linda. That was a beautiful summary. And to speak to Denise's piece, Section A and Section B are basically wish to, right? There's just 2 questions. Section A says, should we attempt CPR or not, right? And some of us have come from wish to thinking like, I don't care what the circumstances are. I don't want it. I don't want CPR. So then it's easy to just translate wish to this, right? And then Section B is just more of that general question. Do I want the full scope of interventions? Do I want limited interventions, or do I want just comfort measures? And some of us feel clear about that. So in that case, it's not far different. It's not a far different cry. Brenda.
I just want to share that the document that I have for that would go with me to the hospital or whatever actually says this is my medical decision maker and this is my alternate. And what it says is my medical decision maker can make decisions for me right after I sign this form. And it is okay for my decision maker to change some of my decisions if the doctors think it's best, but these are wishes that I never want changed. So I'm someone who I trust my medical decision maker. So it gives some flexibility, but it also puts down that, okay, you got to follow my wishes in this, these particular, my brain, I'm brain dead, or, whatever. So then you go back to my 5 with the details of that. So that's why I like this form. I can do this now.
And what is that when you say this form, was that a federal form or was
No,
that?
this is the state. This is
That
the
is for state.
Pennsylvania Advanced Healthcare Directive. This is the checkbox, the most,
Right.
the shortest version of my 5 wishes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And medical power of attorney is another version of what Brenda's talking about. And medical power of attorney forms can also be, you can create your own from a template, or you can go to the state and get one. I have a North Carolina medical power of attorney that I can put here. Second. It does more of what Brenda's talking about. It designates your healthcare agent, also known as medical power of attorney, and the things that you want them to be able to decide on, and the things that you've already decided for yourself, no matter what. So medical power of attorney forms can also be, the medical institutions like them when they're standardized and short and all that stuff, but you can create your own. Here is, I'm hoping this link copied. Okay. Anna, maybe you have it. I don't know if I gave it to you, but okay. Here it is. Okay. It's on my website and it's the North Carolina medical power of attorney, but it's an example for you. And Brenda gave her example of the Pennsylvania. And so again, it's good to have redundancy here. If you're not ready to fill out the most or post form, like that's true for me. I haven't filled out one of those, but I do have the 5 wishes and I have a medical power of attorney. So again, redundancy is helpful. Medical power of attorney basically just says, here's my person. They're going to make decisions. Here's the rough outline of the decisions I value. Yeah. I know the words are complicated, but it boils down to similar things. Denise, yeah.
Hey, I'll just make this real quick because I was just looking at the form and I wanted to address one of the medical measures that's on the form, which is mechanical ventilation. I do or do not want. I recently, a friend of mine, her 22-year-old son was in a car accident and they had to put him on a ventilator for like 10 days and he would have died otherwise. And it was an educational moment for both of us because ventilators really got a very bad rap during COVID because they were so misused. But in severe cases like a sudden severe car accident, they actually can be a good thing. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky in an acute situation to determine whether the person is going to survive the trauma, and whether they will be brain dead on the other side and be connected to a ventilator for life, or if they can remove the ventilator and they'll go back to living a normal life. And a lot of the determination is like, what is their age, what is their level of resilience and strength and health and all of that. Um, and yeah, there's just too many variables for us to possibly imagine. And as I've and we've many of us have said, you may get the resuscitation and you may get the ventilation and you may get these interventions whether you want them or not. Generally speaking, if you're going to interact with the emergency medical system in the form of an ambulance, you're going to get them. If you're going to interact with an emergency room, you're probably going to get them. So, you know, it's one of these things where in one hand we hold what we want, in the other hand we get what we get. So it's one of these opportunities to practice the non-duality. Why don't we do a breakout room, Anna, and we'll do, 3 people to a room, if you have that set up, and we'll do roughly 10 minutes. And there's just a lot to think and talk about. You can, I'm just gonna let it be your choice what you want to talk about. And if there's 3 of you, and let's say we do 12 minutes, you get 4 minutes each, or you can have a discussion however you want to structure it. You can talk about wishes 3, 4, and 5. Or you can talk about some of these additional forms. You can talk about anything, where you are with it all. So Anna, let us know when you have that ready. Hold on tightly, let go lightly. Thank you, Dara.
It's all ready now, Lee.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead and send them. Thank you. Right. Any shares from the breakout room or any questions? Lisa, I see your hand up. Hi, honey.
Hi. We had some really good ideas and discussion about creating an advanced care circle of friends or network. And I don't know that you've discussed this before, but we were saying that, like, in case one of your advanced care persons could, like, we live in different places away from certain family members who can't necessarily get to you right away. And for instance, now that I'm in Florida, I don't have, like, my closest friends in Asheville or California. They live all over the place. But we were talking about having an advanced care circle of friends or network, and that we would invite, for instance, there's the key provider or the key person, and then a secondary person in case that person's not available. And then what if there's a network of friends and caregivers who are part of who all have who know about your life, right, and are important to you. And if you ask them if they're willing to have your advanced care directives and your 5 wishes, but just to be a part of this whole community, that in case something did happen to you, they knew the person who was going to reach out to you. And if that person couldn't get to you right away, that somebody in that network, if it's like 10 people or 5 people, it doesn't matter what size, but at least somebody else is able to get access to you quickly because
Yeah. I call that death care teams.
Yeah.
And even if they are a local group of friends who get together and talk about death or know who you are, they might actually even be able to assist a family member or a friend who might come from out of state and be, sort of be an ad hoc or, just a support system for that decision maker. So I'm all about it. When we do our week on building death literate community, I think it doesn't actually have to be a group of friends who are, committed to taking care of each other at the end of life, but it can be, concentric circles of death literacy in our friend groups. And that's happening in my life more and more. I know that's true for Sarah, and she's young. And I think we can just start building these conversations. I think it's really important.
And the other thing that we talked about quickly was off making sure that there was an account that had funding to support that person or those people who are flying in to take care of you, so that they knew in advance that they weren't going to be just expected to out of pocket spend
Yeah,
that of their
really
own.
good. Really good idea. I like that. A separate checking account or bank account that's like, these are my funeral expenses or my caregiver expenses. Um, yeah, I think, I don't know if I mentioned this, we're doing a week on financials, but I remember my accountant, who was also my mother's accountant, he said that you should plan for $200,000 on average for the 2 years of decline before death in our culture. Like that's the kind of average amount of money that's needed for, a moderate level assisted living facility, and that's about how long people live, which I was blown away by that. I thought that was an extraordinary amount of money. And obviously, if you don't have that money, there's state-run facilities, but they're not quite as good and blah, blah, blah. And then, we never know. Anyway, there's a whole conversation about decline and how do we shorten declines and blah. So maybe we'll get to that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Lise. Other thoughts from the breakout rooms? Brenda.
I was just going to make a quick comment about that financial piece. I went to my banks last time and that I was in this class and talked about how people, since I don't have a spouse or a partner, how can people get access to my money? And I ended up adding them to my account. Like my friend Patty and my friend Kyle, their names are actually on my checking account. So they have access. They know where my debit card is and they have access to my accounts. But I had to go in person and they had to sign. I had to sign and they had to sign
Yeah.
we had to do it now. So
yeah, that's called a joint right of survivorship, and it's different than a financial power of attorney. But we will get to all of that. Let's
okay.
not get ahead of ourselves. But
Sorry.
thank you. That's
Sorry.
great.
But I was just going to also say in our group, we did talk about a little bit about how the idea of the death care team and having the conversations, really just starting these conversations with people who you may think are ready for these conversations and may want to be a part of your care team or whatever. But how do you know until you actually start the conversation? So I think the idea of starting like a death cafe, kind of a deal, it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember Sarah David talking about this, but she formed a land co-op and they had a legal requirement to have some of these documents in place, which could have been some cursory thing that they just filled out and forgot about, but they took it as an opportunity to really go through the process together. So, what an incredible thing where you're all becoming death literate together, right? Because that's how it is. We can contemplate these questions again next week and it will still be rich. So, all right, let me share. I know it's a lot to get through this week with the documents. Whoops. Okay, the dementia directive is an important one, and it's at dementia-directive.org. Anna can share the link. It's very, very similar to the standard directive that we get asked about and wish to, and I'm going to read you the choices they give. Standard directives don't usually cover the complexities of dementia, and yet dementia is going to be the #1 reason people lose their ability to guide their own care. The #1 reason that you might lose your ability to guide your own care is because of dementia. And it's tricky. It's tricky for families. They're faced with really tricky medical decisions, and it can be quite hard and sometimes long. So I recommend using this as a standalone document. I have one of these. It's super simple. It's much like the 5 wishes template where you check a box and you don't actually, I don't think you get this one notarized. It's just like, it just sort of is part of an addendum. It goes in your paperwork. So these are the choices that it comes down to. It's quite a number of pages because they have a section for mild dementia, they have a section for moderate dementia, and then they have a section for severe. And they have these same 4 questions, and they're going to sound familiar to you. So your 4 choices for mild, moderate, and severe. The first one is to live for as long as I can. I would want full efforts to prolong my life, including efforts to restart my heart if it stops beating. That's option 1. Option 2, to receive treatments to prolong my life, but if my heart stops beating or I can't breathe on my own, I would not want my heart shocked or to have my breathing restarted, and I would not want to be put on a breathing machine. If this happens, allow me to die peacefully. And it says reason why. If I took a sudden turn for the worse, then my dementia would likely be worse if I survived, and this would not be an acceptable quality of life for me. The third choice is to only receive care in the place where I am living. I would not want to go to the hospital, even if I were very ill, and I would not want to be resuscitated. If a treatment such as antibiotics might keep me alive longer and could be given in the place where I was living, then I would want such care. But if I continued to get worse, I would not want to go to an emergency room or hospital. Instead, I would want to be allowed to die peacefully. Reason why? I would not want the possible risks and trauma which can come from being in the hospital. And then choice number 4 is to receive comfort care only, focused on relieving my suffering, such as pain, anxiety, or breathlessness. I would not want any care that would keep me alive. So you see the similarities of these choices, right, to wish to. And then you get to choose where you would want to be along that spectrum for mild, moderate, and severe dementia. And everything else on the dementia directive form is basically just, putting your name and signing, and that's it. It's super simple, but it does seem important because it's a big issue. Any questions on dementia directive? Alan.
This would seem like the choices, we might do a DNR, but the choices would vary according to the mild, the moderate, or the severe. How might you give a soft answer that would be in relation to the degree of dementia, please?
You mean a definition of those different stages?
No, not so much a definition, more guidance that I might choose a different one between only receive care in the place where I'm living and to receive comfort-oriented care only, depending on the severity of the dementia.
I see. I think mild dementia could be, sort of cognitive decline, right? And we've all seen folks with cognitive decline, and they might prefer during the mild stage to live a little longer, for example. And then if it were moderate and severe, they wouldn't. I think that's what you're asking. Like, what's an example where you would choose differently between these 3 circumstances? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think that's what I'm asking. It wasn't really
Yeah.
clear because I haven't looked over the whole thing, just
Right.
what you shared.
Yeah. I know one of my clients has mild dementia, and you know, he was faced with a decision whether he wanted to go, to end his life early in Switzerland, and chose not to, and thought, I have a good enough quality of life right now. And the window is closing where he can make that decision, because once the dementia becomes moderate, then other people are making decisions for him. So, yeah.
That seems like a good threshold, what you just mentioned. If I can make the decisions, I may choose differently. And if I reach a point where I can't make the decisions, then my healthcare power of attorney person
Right.
would make the decisions, and they might be different in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, if one is surrounded by death literate and death positive people who are helping guide your care, that's a really different thing than if we're guided by people who are really afraid of death and want to do everything they can to keep us alive, right? And so these forms really help make that distinction. It helps the people in our lives know, like, no, this is my choice. I'm choosing this. I want to be at home, or yeah. Anne Marie.
I'm wondering about this choice of wanting to be at home, because if you have severe dementia, as in Alzheimer's, it would be very difficult for your loved ones or your care team to take care of you at home at advanced stages. And it sometimes is better to be put in an institution or a care facility that can more adequately care for the severely demented person.
Yeah, I think that's a decision that would probably get made, yeah, ideally consciously, ideally considering everyone's capacity, and probably as a sort of separate but parallel decision to, do we need to bring someone to the hospital because otherwise they won't survive, right? Um, the dementia directive is really talking about, someone who would need medical care and could not stay in the home, because they needed medical care. And in that case, they'd probably enter hospice. Um, Again, a million variables. But I see your point and your question of wisdom here around, if it's going to be a long haul with dementia, is your financial situation and or your family friend situations able to care for you for an extended period of time? And that's a really good question for us to ask ourselves. Can a spouse care for us? Can we care for a spouse in that situation? I'm again of clients facing this, like, these are hard decisions, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to stay at home as long as they can, and that care can be grueling. It can
Yeah.
really be grueling.
I wouldn't want that care to be a burden on my family or my loved ones.
Right. And dementia care often is. It's very hard. It's
Right.
very
And
hard.
it isn't just medical care, it's keeping the person with dementia safe. You may need a locked environment. You may need somebody that can deal with outbursts of anger, etc. I mean,
Yeah,
advanced Alzheimer's is ugly.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Henry. Linda and then Damon Sean.
Yes, I was going to agree that going back to the home is probably not even, at some stage, it's not even an option. But it can be other people's homes or a hospice. There's other facilities beside hospital. And I think maybe they should be in the document if that's what we want. Just because to insist on staying at home the way this document is written is really not
Yeah,
acceptable.
I think the dementia directive is one of those templates that's like to make it as universal as possible, but I love the idea of you adding an addendum on there to say, please, consider a long-term care facility in a situation where I might have extended, moderate, to advanced dementia, and talking to your family about that. I really do like that. I mean, I think it's addressing the document is addressing something very narrow, and what you all are bringing in is something wider. But because you're so literate about this, I think it's great to add. I really do. Thank you, Linda. Damon, Sean.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention in our group, there was a sincere request for a digital version of the Five Wishes document, which when I went on and looked, they actually have a digital version, which might make it easier for some people to fill out and make copies of and make it shareable. So I put a link in the chat.
Yeah, there is a link on the preliminaries page of my website, and they absolutely do have a digital one. You can fill it out on there and print it out. They don't store it. So it's not one of these services where you fill it out and it goes into some data bank and you can share it from there. It's just an opportunity to fill it out online, and then you print it as a PDF or you print it in paper. So absolutely can use their digital version. It's free the last time I tried it.
It appears they have a
Because
price tag on it now.
they do, what do they charge for it?
$15. I think
To
it
fill
has witnessing and notarizing available on it too, or something.
Oh, that's lovely.
Mhm. Yeah.
$15 seems worth it if they are going to witness and notarize. That's lovely.
Yeah, and you can probably print multiple versions of it as opposed to that. So I put a link in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One last document to share with you, or set of documents, and then we can just open up for discussion. So that was dementia directive. I did want to circle back and show you this. We had talked about this, which is if someone is in an advanced stage illness and or significant decline and really feel strongly about do not resuscitate, people have done this. They have literally tattooed do not resuscitate on their chest because they feel so strongly about going through their decline in a way that is harmonious with their own values. So that's a thing. And then the medical release forms and HIPAA forms, I have a whole bunch of links in the section for this week under resources. And just Brenda has used this word, and I just wanted to sort of bring it to your attention. It's called the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's a very dry name, and what it means is that there are federal laws in place for healthcare providers and insurance company who get to look at all of our information, and it holds them accountable to privacy, right? And including you get to see your records, and including they don't get to share those records without your permission. And so if you're going to be admitted into some kind of facility for a procedure or for long-term care, or you end up in the hospital, there will be documents around this HIPAA Act, which is who can see your documents. Now, the Wish 1 in the 5 wishes specifies that my healthcare agent can see the forms and make those decisions. It's not super clear. So therefore, if you do a healthcare power of attorney or a medical power of attorney, that's another place it will say, often have a checkbox like, yes, I want my medical power of attorney to be able to look at my healthcare history, my medical documents, and make the best decisions that they can. So there's really not much to do about this now, but just know when you see that word HIPAA, that's what it means. Yeah. And if you're faced with, hospital stays, you will be engaging with HIPAA. Any questions about the HIPAA piece? Okay, I put links in case you want to look at it more. So the homework for this week, there's a lot of paperwork here. And my experience in doing this class for many, many years is if you put this off, it will increase the likelihood that you won't get it done. That's just how we are. I don't know why, that humans are like that. You might want to take the spark of this class and the awareness that's in your present time, if you can, to set some of these things into place now while it's alive for you. And even if it all feels a little bit too much, then just take the simple road. Just do minimal for wishes 3, 4, and 5. Print out the directive, check your boxes, sign it. Just get a few things done. The information is going in, so you'll remember it. You're getting more literate about this stuff. But if there's things you want to complete, I encourage you to engage with your buddy about what would be helpful for you around accountability. Conversations this week, talk to your healthcare agent or family, friends. Ongoing conversations there are good. Talk to your buddy. And then I have one last piece here, which I'll talk about in our last remaining time, which is the upcoming Day of the Dead celebration. So I'm just going to read a little quote here before I end the slides, and then we can open it up for more discussion. Alan Watts. By replacing fear of the unknown with curiosity, we open ourselves to an infinite stream of possibility. We can let fear rule our lives, or we can become childlike with curiosity, pushing our boundaries, leaping out of our comfort zones, and accepting what life puts before us. So since we have 15 minutes left, do folks want to do more breakout rooms, or do you want to stay here and keep engaging? Raise your hand if you want to do breakout rooms again. Okay, nobody. Okay. So we have time and we can talk about any and all of this. What's alive for folks? Sarah.
I'm having difficulty, logistical difficulty with, first of all, getting my documents notarized and witnessed, but I'm also noticing that I have some resistance to it because it feels that that would make my documents final, and I like my documents being editable. And I like updating them regularly, and I keep all of my documents in Google Docs. And like through this class, I've been updating them and changing them, and they're all shared with, my medical providers. But I have not, as a result, I have not gotten anything notarized and witnessed. And I'm wondering,
I think you can have the best of both worlds. And I think the way that I might encourage you to meet both needs is to put a link in the footer or somewhere in the doc that is like, this is an ongoing living document. Please see here for the most updated version, and then getting it notarized so at least you have a place and time where everything's legal. And then as you update it, you can just say, you know what, once a year, I'm gonna print them again and notarize them again. But at least you have a notarized copy so it's legal, and then you're working on your living document. How does that land for you?
yeah, I think that makes sense. And yeah, I have some logistical problems because I'm in Peru, and so I have to getting things notarized is a pain in the butt. But yeah, I hear you.
I mean, I hear that. Yeah, I hear that. I mean, the medical power of attorney is probably going to be, in this context, maybe the most important thing. And then maybe you make everything else just a rolling living document.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Mary Marty.
Yes, I'm asking about descriptions or kind of lists for the 3 stages of dementia. I'm liking the suggestion somebody made last week, I think, about someone they knew who made a graph of decline. I'm thinking my graph's going to go upward. It's like I'll be full of life, full of life, full of life, ready to go off the top, you know. But where do I go for those minute details?
Yeah. The dementia directive is many pages, and I have one here. And it does talk about, it has a section called What is Dementia? And then it says stage 1, mild dementia. People may often lose the ability to remember recent events. Routine tasks become difficult, such as cooking. Some tasks can become dangerous, such as driving. If you were to be at this stage of dementia, what level of medical care would you want for yourself? And then those
Okay.
4 options.
Okay.
And then in moderate dementia, it says people lose the ability to have conversations and communication becomes limited. People lose the ability to understand what is going on around them. People require daily, full-time assistance with dressing and sometimes toileting. If you were at this stage of dementia, what level of medical care would you want? And then stage 3, severe, says people are no longer able to recognize loved ones or family members. People may be awake through the night, disruptive and yelling. Some may be calm or serene most or all of the time, but many become angry and agitated at times and sometimes even violent towards the people they love. People need round-the-clock help with daily activities, including bathing and assistance with all basic bodily functions.
Wow. Okay. So go to that page and look at everything.
Yeah, it's
Right.
I think dementiadirective.org, it's like a whole PDF. They've done a really good job with it, you know, much like the 5 wishes, as, you know, condensed of a template as possible.
Mhm.
And I don't, they have a notary. Let me look at mine. I don't remember if they had a notary on the last page. I don't think. Yeah, well, I do see a notary page on here, but I can't tell if it's from this or something else. My
Okay. You've answered my question thoroughly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Carl.
My question kind of follows up on Sarah's. I don't, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So, and I don't have all the abilities to finish everything. But what I'm hearing you say is maybe it's a good idea to do the best I can right now and to move on and have a completion date.
I mean, the moment you get all the documents notarized, you're going to think of something you want to change. That's just how it goes, right? And if we can live with that as the reality, then we can, you know, I mean, you've seen my addendum. I put a date every time I've updated that. So the first one was 2019, and then I had 21, and then 23, and then 24. And so, you know, I think as long as you have something signed that can stand to support what you want, should you need it next week, then absolutely keep the changes in your document, in your heart, in your mind, and knowing that you'll update it again and it'll be good enough for if you need it sooner.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a both and.
Yeah, and I think it really is good for me to get it done now, like you're talking about the energy of the class and everything, and otherwise I will be putting it off. So.
No, if you stick it in a pile on the corner of your desk, it's going to be on a pile in the corner of your desk for a long time, you know?
Guaranteed.
That's how we are.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you can set yourself up with, you know, I come from this place of really supporting and encouraging whatever you can do. So I'm not about to bring in sort of shaming tactics on anyone for not doing it. So therefore you're going to have to set up your own scaffolding for accountability, you know, like, and it's not easy stuff. I mean, we don't love paperwork, first of all, most of us. And second of all, these are hard topics.
And some questions I don't have a clear answer on for myself. I'm gonna have to just pick one, you know?
What's like, give us an example.
Where do I want to be buried or my body to be placed?
Well, we haven't talked about that yet, and we have 2 weeks on that, so you might get clearer on that question.
Okay.
Because every topic we're sort of diving down into, and that's the idea of the buddies as well, is like, if you're not clear about something that we've already covered, I'd bring that to your buddy. That's your buddy's role, which is like, hey, I don't feel clear about this. Can we have a conversation so that I can talk through what's in the way of me getting a yes or a no about something?
That's excellent advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've not been using my buddy sufficiently.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Let me just look at the chat for a second, Brenda. Do you have any resources on burials on private property? Okay. I remember, Sarah, there was a book about burial on private property in all 50 states, and it's been so many years since I have seen that book, but I wonder if they did an update for it. And if you do a quick search and find something, I'd love for you to bring that to us. Because the laws change a lot and then certain development in certain areas. But yeah, that'd be great to know if that book still exists. Brenda.
I was just thinking in the age of YouTube and Zoom, I'm just thinking outside the box here about maybe having my death care team together on a Zoom call and recording a conversation with my end of life wishes and putting this on a video. I mean, I feel like it would be kind of hard to misconstrue what my wishes are, especially when my witnesses are on the video,
Yeah, I love that.
It's just a thought.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, these documents, the 5 wishes documents, whenever it did come out, last, I don't know, 20 years or something, this is radical, this is radical stuff to say, like, I'm gonna prepare, by saying this stuff in advance. And, so we are making sort of leaps and bounds. And I think I love the video piece. And again, that's never set in stone because we'll wake up the next day and have some new epiphany about how we want to think about something. But, really these living conversations and the evolution of our own existence, of our own ways of being and thinking, the people who are going to understand that the most are the people closest to us, because they're tracking us. What else? Yeah, Carl again.
I'm wondering if I care to donate, if my body is still sufficiently young and healthy and everything, if I want to donate my organs, is that permissible, possible to have my death at home, or do I need to be in a hospital?
Yeah, that's a really big question, and we're gonna save it for our returning the vessel. So we're not gonna talk about it right now, but I will say, in terms of chronology, next week is week 7, and it's a really juicy one. Let me just see everything I put on this slide. It's called Tuning Into Your Soul's Blueprint. We're going to be talking about the archetypes of death, and we're going to be talking about psychedelics, which is like everybody's favorite topic. And, the resources that are available now that the psychedelic world is sort of opening up and the legalities are softening, and what does it look like to utilize psychedelics towards our practice of dying? So that's next week. And then the week after that, we go into returning the vessel, which is going to be after death choices, body and spirit care, vigil and funeral options, and disposition of the body, and caring for the dead. So 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, we're going to be spending on, like, what do I want done to my being, my body, my spirit when I die? And then what do I want? How do I want to dispose of my body? So hang tight. We got a lot of information coming on that, and a lot of discussion. about that. And what I want to say is that, so week 7 is next week, and then that date is right before the holy days, which is, so we meet in a week, which is the 29th of October. And then, plenty of people celebrate Halloween, but it's also called Samhain. And it's a cross-quarterly sort of earth-based holiday. So the quarterly holidays are the equinoxes and the solstices, and this is a cross-quarterly, and so it's a really important time in the wheel of the year. It means we're halfway through our 13 weeks because we're doing this beautiful quarter turn of the year together, and so we're halfway through. And it also means that Day of the Dead is coming up on Saturday the 2nd, or the weekend. And we're going to talk about that a little bit next week, but it might be helpful for you to start asking the question of like, how do I want to celebrate? Is there some small ritual that you can do? Ancestor feast is a beautiful ritual where you honor something that your ancestors loved to eat, and you gather some friends and you talk about that food and you talk about your ancestors. Some kind of celebration of beloved dead, so bringing a photo and grabbing tea or hanging out and talking to friends about a friend, a beloved that has died. I'm doing a grief and eros ritual, which is for my tantra community, which is this beautiful ritual of using the life force energy, our erotic life force energy, as a gas pedal to move our grief through the body. This is probably a more advanced tantric practice, but you can do something along the lines of encouraging grief in your life. Going to visit folks at their resting places at the cemetery is often something done in Mexico, bringing food, bringing tokens, bringing flowers. So start thinking about that. And we have, a week plus to think about, but doing some small ritual on the Day of the Dead is a really great practice towards death positivity. Any other thoughts, questions, feedback, contemplations? All right, I will stay for. Go ahead.
Lee, it's
Yeah, Maria.
Maria. I just wanted to say that I may or may not be able to attend next week, and to let people know that I am going to be gone. I'll be out of the country for a number of weeks, so I'm going to miss, not so much by choice. This travel was set up before, but I will come back at least for the last group, I hope. And I hope that people will also consider celebrating winter solstice together, which I know is an option as well. So thank you all for all your input, and hope to see you next week, but I'm not sure if I'll have easy access or not. Thank you.
And Maria, are you down to one buddy at this point? Is Denise your only buddy?
Denise is my only buddy, and I did mention to her that she could, and I think intends to communicate with you about another possibility.
Okay. Well, Denise is potentially in need of a buddy, folks. So anybody that wants a third, or anybody that's missing or wants to switch up or anything, let us know. All right, beloved. See you next week. I saw your text, Alan. This is a ritual I've done with our group of folks, more advanced tantric practitioners, that we do this grief and eros work together, so I don't have it published anywhere. It's possible that I will develop the ritual to the point where I can share it larger and wider, but it's not there yet. It's very edgy, the idea that life force and erotic life force and grief travel the same pathways in the body, and we can use one to support the other. It's people have to start a little bit slower usually.
I mean, it's the very thing that you just said now that is what piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
I have a beloved also in her mid-70s who is really focused on Eros as life force.
Yeah.
and wants to develop that. And that's where that question came from. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
you might have an outside resource on that.
Yeah, I hear your point, which is maybe writing something up about it and you know, for people who are curious about what it entails and why. I think that's a great idea. I think I have enough content that I can publish a blog post or something.
Well, my request was not to ask you to do more work, but if there were an outside resource, meaning something that
Oh,
that
no,
you
I don't
had
know.
encountered.
I don't know anyone who's doing this work really, you know,
That's the
and
important work.
yeah, yeah. But I
Okay,
love writing, so I may feel inspired to do that.
thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Lenny. Hi, Carla. Anything you all want to share?
I'm gone.
I was
Bye,
just
Ellen.
hanging around to see what other interesting.
Yeah, you're breaking up, love, love. You were saying you're hanging around just to see what else is there.
Being other people were thinking about at the end, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
it's
get
breaking. Lenny, you're breaking up
enough.
on my end
Thank
too.
you.
So, actually, my question is very mundane. I switched from an iPhone to an Android phone, and now I'm having trouble getting into my Chromebook. So when I tried to get into the Queen of Death resources, it says only available to current clients or something like that. So could you just like shoot me an email with the, with permission since I'm a current client?
There's no permissions on the page. It wouldn't have given you a message like that. There's no login, there's nothing. It's just a link that's just not shared with the public. But yeah, I'm happy to email you the link.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's very confusing to the technology world that I have one Chrome OS, I have an iOS, iPad, and then an Android phone. So
Yeah, going from an iPhone to an Android phone sounds like a big learning curve.
it is, but the phone was half the price of an iPhone, so
Yeah.
that's why I switched. So okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Wonderful class.
Thank you. All right, Anna. How's it going?
Writing.